Japanese wolf. In the dense misty forests of Honshu and Shikoku, there once lived a creature both feared and reviled, the Japanese wolf, or Nihon Okami. Small, about the size of a medium-sized dog, but a legend in folklore, it was completely different from typical predators in the wild. For centuries, it symbolized protection from evil spirits and was even worshipped at mountain shrines. Farmers placed offerings on its altars, hoping it would protect their crops from wild boars. Wolves were not only a part of Japan's ecosystem, but also deeply rooted in the country's culture. But by the early 20th century, the Japanese wolf had disappeared. The last confirmed specimen was killed in Nara Prefecture in 1905. Historians point to several reasons for the species' extinction. The rapid spread of rabies in the 1800s due to contact with domestic dogs, the increased use of poison to control pests, and the expansion of human settlements into wild territory. Governments, concerned about disease and attacks on livestock, actively encouraged their extermination. What had once thrived in spiritual harmony with humans was now seen as a threat. But the story doesn't end there. Throughout the 20th century, rumors circulated among farmers, hikers, and even researchers about strange sightings. In 1996, Hiroshi Yagi, a veteran wolf enthusiast, photographed a mysterious dog in the Okuchichibu Mountains. It had a short snout and erect ears, and bore an uncanny resemblance to stuffed Japanese wolves preserved in museums. DNA analysis was conducted, but the sighting captured the public's attention. Then came the howling. In 2018, a wildlife biologist recorded low-pitched howls in the Chichibu Mountains that did not match any known dog, coyote, or wolf. Their distinctive sound was hauntingly similar to historical recordings of wolves. Experts remain divided on whether they were a lost wolf population or simply wild dogs with wolf-like features. The mystery remains, but one thing is certain: extinction is not always absolute. Nature is elusive, and what disappears from memory does not always disappear from the face of the earth. In the remote reaches of Japan, hidden behind the mists and pine forests, something wild still stirs, and perhaps it has always been there, just out of reach. Ground sloth. Deep in the rainforests of South America, rumors persist of a species thought to be extinct: the giant ground sloth. Fossil records show that these giant herbivores, some measuring more than 15 feet long and weighing more than a ton, once roamed freely across the continent. Their bones, preserved in cave systems and tar pits, reveal curved claws the size of bananas and a lumbering gait that shook the ground beneath them. Officially, the animals disappeared about 10,000 years ago, possibly due to climate change and human hunting at the end of the Ice Age. But what if they never really disappeared? Among the indigenous Guarani people of Paraguay and northern Argentina, legends of a giant beast called the Mapinguari persist. A hairy, musky creature with powerful limbs and a terrifying roar. Folklorists and anthropologists have long speculated that these tales may have been inspired by actual encounters with ground sloths passed down through generations by word of mouth. The uncanny resemblance between the fossils and these mythical creatures is hard to ignore. Modern eyewitness accounts are even more intriguing. In remote parts of the Amazon, loggers and local villagers have reported sightings of large, slow-moving animals unlike any known species. One Brazilian hunter described a huge bear with claws like machetes that moved awkwardly but with undeniable power. Another claimed to have seen a creature that growled like a bull and charged through the undergrowth like a bulldozer. Although these accounts are scattered and often undocumented, they have kept the mystery alive. The scientific community, however, remains skeptical. With no concrete evidence, no clear photographs, no DNA samples, no corpses, most experts dismiss these stories as misidentifications of known species or the result of a mix of folklore and fantasy. They point out that a mammal of such size would have left unmistakable tracks, droppings, or remains. But none of these tracks, droppings, or remains have been found with certainty in recent decades. Yet for those drawn to the boundary between science and legend, the possibility still lurks like a ghost in the jungle. Is there an ancient survivor hiding in the dense canopy, hidden from the eyes of the modern world? Or is this a relic of a forgotten past, still echoing at the intersection of myth and memory? Carolina parakeet. In the dense cypress swamps and sun-drenched river valleys of the southeastern United States, flocks of brilliant blues, yellows, and reds paint the skies with a myriad of colors and songs. The Carolina parrot, North America's only native parrot, is a remarkable bird, not only for its plumage, but also for its social and curious nature. The birds nest in hollow trees, returning year after year to the same spot, and feed on seeds and fruits, including poisonous brambles, a plant they particularly favor. They are noisy, playful, and fiercely loyal, especially to their own kind, traits that, ironically, may have contributed to their extinction. As European settlers expanded across the eastern United States, the Carolina parrot's bright plumage made them a target for the fashion industry, while their penchant for destroying crops earned them the ire of farmers. Deforestation devastated their habitat, and with each tree felled, their nesting grounds disappeared. But perhaps the most devastating blow came from their tight social bonds. If one parrot was shot, others would repeatedly return to its carcass, making the entire flock an easy target for predators. By the early 1900s, they had disappeared from the wild, and in 1918, the last known individual died in captivity at the Cincinnati Zoo. But rumors of the bird never completely died out. Unconfirmed sightings continued for decades, especially in remote Florida swamps and along the Gulf Coast. Some naturalists claim to have heard the parrot's signature call long after it was declared extinct. In the 1920s and even into the mid-20th century, stories continued to emerge of small, green, yellow-headed parrots darting through the trees, often dismissed by scientists as misidentified or escaped pets. Yet, the Carolina parrot lives on in museum drawers. Stuffed specimens preserved behind glass, a haunting reminder of a species that disappeared not through natural evolution, but through human carelessness. Many of these specimens still have intact genetic material, occasionally sparking talk of a possible revival. But whether the parrot will ever return, or whether the whispers in the swamp are actually echoes of the past, remains one of North America's most bittersweet mysteries. Zanzibar leopard. For centuries, the Zanzibar leopard has roamed the dense forests and rolling hills of Unguja, the largest island in the Zanzibar archipelago. Slender, elusive, and slightly smaller than its mainland cousin, the subspecies plays a vital role in the island's ecosystem. As an apex predator, the leopard has helped keep populations of small mammals, birds, and even primates in check, maintaining the delicate balance of Zanzibar's unique ecosystem. But its place in the food web is not the only thing that determines its fate. In the eyes of many islanders, the leopard is not just an animal, but a symbol of the supernatural. Local legends tell of witches who keep leopards as spirit companions, releasing them at night to carry out dark deeds or exact revenge. The belief that leopards are not wild but controlled by powerful humans has blurred the line between predator and myth. Fear was not only born of the leopard itself, but also of what it represented. And that fear would soon have deadly consequences. By the mid-20th century, a widespread eradication campaign began. Farmers, hunters, and even local governments aggressively targeted leopards, believing them to be a threat to livestock, children, and the peace of communities. The use of snares, poisons, and guns devastated the population. Combined with deforestation and habitat loss, the campaign pushed the Zanzibar leopard to what many believe to be extinction. By the 1990s, biologists had declared the species extinct, with no verified sightings for decades. But then, in 2018, a glimmer of hope emerged. A camera trap, set deep in the forest as part of a conservation project, captured footage of a creature that looked like a leopard. The animal moved swiftly through the undergrowth, its spotted coat barely visible in the low light but still visible. The short clip sparked worldwide interest and debate. Had the Zanzibar leopard survived in hiding all this time? Was this an undiscovered remnant of the population, or was it simply a mistake? To this day, the question remains unanswered. The forest holds its secrets, But this short clip reminded the world of what was lost and what may still lie in the shadows. Eastern cougar. For years, rumors of big cats roaming the forests of the eastern United States have inspired both wonder and skepticism. The eastern puma, a silent, sleek specter of the wild, once stalked the Appalachian Mountains, dense forests, and river valleys stretching from Maine to Florida. But after centuries of habitat destruction, bounty hunting, and a dwindling food supply, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service officially declared the eastern puma extinct in 2018. It was a somber moment that marked the end of a predator that once symbolized the wild spirit of the American wilderness. Just north of the border, however, the story is less clear. In Canada, wildlife officials have never fully accepted the extinction story. Some biologists believe small populations may still exist, hiding in remote areas of Quebec or New Brunswick. Unlike the United States, where evidence is scant and largely anecdotal, Canadian authorities have taken a more cautious approach, calling the eastern puma data deficient rather than extinct. This distinction has sparked debate and hope among conservationists and local residents. Confirmed long-distance movements of puma across North America have further complicated the mystery. DNA evidence has traced some individuals seen in places like Connecticut and Tennessee back to breeding populations in the Dakotas and even the Rocky Mountains. These are not remnants of the eastern lineage, but young males dispersing over long distances in search of territory. Their journeys, sometimes exceeding 1,000 miles, demonstrate that puma still have the physical capacity and ecological flexibility to travel long distances. This has led to serious discussions about reintroduction. Some experts advocate relocating western cougars to their historic eastern range to restore ecological balance. Others warn that without proper land management, public education, and legal protections, reintroduction could cause conflict with rural communities. But one thing is clear: the land has not forgotten cougars. Deer populations have exploded during their absence, forests have changed, and something vital seems to be missing from the natural order. So while the eastern cougars, in their purest genetic form, may be gone, the possibility of a wild cat returning to the east remains. This is a story of loss, but it is also a story of resilience, of translocation, and perhaps of a second chance for a lost apex predator. Caribbean monk seal. For centuries, Caribbean monk seals have been quietly gliding across the warm turquoise waters of the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. With their slender bodies and curious black eyes, these gentle marine mammals were once a familiar sight across the region, from the Florida Keys to the coast of Central America. Early European explorers wrote of beaches teeming with monk seals, often describing them as so docile that they could be approached and killed without a fight. It was this passivity that led to their demise. During the 17th to 19th centuries, Caribbean monk seals were hunted relentlessly, not for their meat, but for their blubber. When processed into oil, this blubber became a valuable commodity for lighting lamps and lubricating machinery. Fishermen, whalers, and settlers slaughtered them by the thousands, often wiping out entire herds in a single expedition. Unlike their more agile and elusive counterparts, monk seals lacked the survival instincts needed to escape deliberate human exploitation. The last sighting of a Caribbean monk seal was in 1952, off the Serenilla coast between Jamaica and Honduras. After decades of unsuccessful attempts to find a breeding population, the species was officially declared extinct by the United States in 2008. It was the first seal species to go extinct due to human activity and a disturbing symbol of our unchecked impact on marine ecosystems. Yet, even after their presumed extinction, stories of monk seals have not completely died out. Local fishermen in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and the Yucatan Peninsula occasionally report seeing the large bearded animals sunning themselves on remote beaches, or slithering beneath the surface of the water. While most scientists believe these are manatees or other seals misidentified from distant waters, some conservationists hold out hope. Could a handful of survivors be hiding in little studied atolls or underground caves? There's a strong sense of longing in these stories. The Caribbean monk seal represents not just a species, but a living link to an era. Great auk. Once roaming the icy waters of the North Atlantic, the great auk is a flightless seabird as tall as a toddler, with sleek black and white plumage and a beak built for catching fish. For millennia, it lived peacefully on remote islands from Newfoundland to Iceland, nesting in dense flocks on rocky shores. Indigenous peoples revered the great auk as a vital food source and a spiritual symbol. Ancient carvings and burial sites suggest the bird was associated with early coastal cultures. But with the arrival of European explorers and hunters, the story took a tragic turn. By the 16th century, the great auk became a prime target not just for its meat, but also for its fat, down, and even its eggs. Sailors and traders flocked to nesting sites with brutality, killing thousands in a single season. Because the great auk was flightless and unafraid of humans, its survival was almost non-existent. By the late 1700s, the bird's population had dwindled dramatically. Hunters began traveling farther and farther afield to find the remaining pairs. The killing blow came not from hunger, but from curiosity. In the 19th century, European museums and private collectors began paying high prices for specimens and preserved eggs. This sparked a disturbing race to protect the last individuals. In 1844, on a remote island in Iceland, the last known breeding pair was killed, their sole egg smashed underfoot. Since then, the great auk has occupied a strange place between history and legend. Although officially extinct, sightings continue to trickle in from remote northern islands and mist-shrouded cliffs. None of these reports have been verified, yet the bird's image lives on in paintings, museum models, and on the shelves of expensive auction houses, where intact great auk eggs fetch more than $10,000 each. The great auk's demise was not due to climate change or natural predators. It was the result of greed, ignorance, and the desire to possess what should never have been caught. Today, it stands as a haunting symbol of extinction, a reminder of how quickly a species can disappear when it is treated as a commodity rather than a companion on our shared planet. Tasmanian tiger. The Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, was once Australia's apex predator. With its dog-like body, stiff kangaroo-like tail, and distinctive striped back, it looked like a combination of several creatures created by evolution. For tens of thousands of years, thylacines ruled the forests and grasslands of mainland Australia. But their reign did not last forever, as wild wolves, introduced by humans, spread across the continent about 4,000 years ago. They began to compete with the thylacines. The dingo was faster, more sociable, and better adapted to hunting in packs. Gradually, the thylacines disappeared from the mainland, retreating to the island of Tasmania, where dingoes never set foot. But it was not safe for long. In the early 1800s, European settlers began arriving in Tasmania and quickly saw the thylacines as a threat to their sheep and cattle. Despite little evidence of widespread attacks, fear persisted. In 1888, the Tasmanian government officially placed a bounty on every thylacine killed. Predators were paid for snouts, legs, and skins, and over the next few decades, the population was decimated. Ironically, by the time humans began to suspect that the thylacine was a real threat to livestock, it was too late. The last known individual died in captivity at Hobart Zoo in 1936, a cold, lonely death for a species that once roamed the continent. Since then, hazy photographs, distant howls, and rumors have kept the legend alive. But for nearly a century, there have been no verifiable reports of a thylacine sighting. But the story may not end there. In recent years, a group of innovative scientists have launched a revival project using preserved DNA, gene editing, and material from closely related marsupials to try to bring back the thylacine. Between 2022 and 2024, the project has gained momentum, attracted significant funding, and attracted public interest. It is one of the most ambitious conservation science experiments in history. Whether it succeeds or fails, the Tasmanian wolf has become more than just an extinct species. It is a symbol of what we destroy when fear overrides science, and a prime example of how far we are willing to go to right our wrongs. Ivory-billed woodpecker. For decades, the ivory-billed woodpecker has symbolized wonder and loss in the American South. Once common in the swampy forests of the southeastern United States, the bird's population plummeted as widespread logging destroyed its unique habitat. By the time conservationists took notice, the bird was probably close to extinction, but rumors of its existence never completely disappeared. Sporadic sightings and reports of the bird's distinctive call have fueled hope since the mid-20th century. The most famous claim came in 2004, when scientists believed they had seen one in Arkansas, though conclusive evidence was lacking. In 2023, A drone team in Louisiana recorded a woodpecker-like bird with similar features, along with drumming and calls that were said to be similar to the bird. Some experts are optimistic, calling it the best evidence in decades. Others remain unconvinced, suggesting it may be a more common species of black-billed woodpecker. The debate rages on. Some continue to search with modern tools, while others call for the bird to be accepted as extinct. The story of the ivory-billed woodpecker now serves as a modern-day parable about fragile ecosystems, the limits of evidence, and the desire to undo the damage we have done. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about scientific discovery, history, and the wild unknown.